Well, today is, of course, the 4th of July. It's a day that America celebrates because they booted we British out, our monarchy out, our mad King George dropped the ball. Otherwise, I would possibly be King Piers right now of the United States of America. So we don't obviously celebrate it with quite such enthusiasm over this side of the pond. But amid the hot dogs and fireworks, even this day of patriotic celebration in the States has become divisive. There's a growing trend for black Americans to celebrate Juneteenth as an alternative to July 4th. Veteran Congresswoman Maxine Waters in 2021 claimed the Declaration of Independence wasn't for equality and it was only for white men. Her comments were echoed by a fellow Democrat, Cori Bush, who said black people still aren't free. So
black people are not free? Really? Black people still are free after all these years? Of course they are. Man, and we've had full equality under the law for many years now. And the fact of the matter is that people like Cori Bush and Maxine Waters, they are not going to be a solution to this country. They can't. They're incapable of doing anything good because they're evil. They're full of hate. And they will be the cancer that destroys this country. And we got to vote them out. We got to vote people like them out.
War on the West and Conservative commentator Douglas Murray, country music legend Lee Greenwood, and my Talk TV contributor Paula Rowan Adrian, and Talk TV presenter Richard Tice. All right, well, a stellar panel. Douglas, let me start with you. You read a great piece this week for The Telegraph about this weird trend. I agree with you. I think it's weird, where we're being compelled to just apologise constantly for everything that happened in the past. Why are we doing this?
That's right. It's a very strange act of masochism, really, and an act of masochism carried out by people who don't seem to know anything. I mean, people talk about the British monarchy having to apologise for slavery. It was King George III who signed the Anti-Slavery Act into law in 1807. Prince Albert gave one of the most extraordinary anti-slavery addresses when the British were still policing the anti-slave trade on the high seas in 1840 to the Anti-Slavery League in London. All of this was addressed 200 years ago. And today, unfortunately, there's a kind of new type of malcontent, and usually also a huckster to boot, who just decides that none of this happened. Usually it's because they don't know it happened. And as a result, they look at our history and everything in our country, right up to just, innocent pastimes like cricket, and they decide to name everything as guilty. And, you could do this to everyone and to everything, but most civilizations and cultures don't behave like this because most of them aren't just masochistic and so self-hating.
All right.
You know what, guys? Make no mistake. What they're doing is they're trying to have power over people by declaring everything is racist. And you owe them something. You owe them something for what you've done to people like them. Again, for so many years, you owe them something, and you're like, well, I'm only 47 years old or whatever. I haven't done anything to anyone. I never was a slave owner. I never, as a matter of fact, I worked in a plant, in 100-degree temperatures, and I wasn't privileged. And what are you talking about? Well, you owe us stuff. Everything is racist. Everything around us is racist. And again, you must feel bad. And the thing is, man, people on, and I will say, man, the economically privileged people on the left, they believe that. They're like, oh, you know what? I do feel bad. And number one, they don't feel bad. It's just an act. It's just an act. They don't feel bad. They truly don't feel bad because, again, you didn't do anything. So how can you? How can you truly feel bad for something you never did? You can't. But what they do is they try to play the game. Oh, I feel so bad for myself and my white privilege, and I feel so bad. So guess what? I'm gonna vote for you to have reparations. And again, what people like that are doing is they are destroying this country and they are destroying the Western world. Because again, we have got to understand, how are they going to get that money? How is the government going to pay them? They're going to pay them by printing money. Again, inflation. And they don't care. They truly don't care if it destroys this country and destroys the Western world. They don't care. They will happily destroy it. Again, so they can have their, maybe in the future, a worthless piece of paper. That's all they care about. Again, they don't care. They truly don't care about this country and about the Western world. All they care about is their money. That's all they care about. And again, it's not even money that's owed to them. They were never slaves. And there's been full equality under the law for many, many years. But again, they don't care. They want to point to, well, I don't have much. So again, it must be discrimination. Because I haven't moved from the couch and I'm sitting here smoking pot all day. Again, it must be discrimination is the reason why I haven't made anything of my life. It's like, no, it's not that. It's not that. You need to look in the mirror, fella. Again, but they will use whatever they can as a way. And you have people like Maxine Waters and Corey Bush and whatever, man, again, that will happily destroy this country, and they will lead the charge. And funny thing is, man, people are behind them. They are behind them in going down this road of destruction. And again, they don't even see what they're doing.
Your response to that?
I actually agree with Douglas about the fact that we don't know enough. He's absolutely right. We don't know enough, and it's important that we do. But part of the knowledge is also understanding the hurt and pain that were caused, not just about the good things. It's not just about the cherry picking. And wrongs are not about being masochistic. Saying sorry is not a bad thing. Saying sorry is actually a very empowering thing to do.
Why does it matter that a bunch of royals now get forced into issuing grovelling apology? Who cares? How does it change anything? It doesn't do anything, in my estimation, to impact on current slavery where it exists around the world. It doesn't really make any difference to institutional racism, as we've seen in certain parts of society. I don't know what difference it makes. It might make people feel a bit better to see a royal grovelling, but so what?
See, I don't agree with you, surprise, surprise. I do think it makes a difference. I do think it makes a difference that people in power are heard to acknowledge pain and hurt. I do think it's important that people in power have taken the time.
But whose pain and hurt are you talking about? It's not people living today. These are going back hundreds of years in some cases, these crimes of slavery and so on. We all agree it was outrageous. It's been debated, really year after year after year. We all know this. I don't think that people have a lack of knowledge. And I'm not quite sure where the apology tour ends. What's the end game here?
So the end game is about the ability to understand the true history, not just the part of history that we have been taught. And that is the difficulty. So you're talking about who's the apology for. Well, the apology is for me. The apology is for those who have suffered. The apology is for those who continue to struggle through colonialism and through slavery. And I do think that it's important that royalty are coming forward and saying, we apologise for the part that we...
All right, so is that it? Is that enough? When is enough enough? If we all say sorry today... Hang on.
The British government, when is enough enough? To repay, to compensate slavery.
So if we all say sorry today...
enough?
Well, that's my question to you, and you're not answering it.
Well, when my point is,
if we all say sorry today, it was terrible, which we all know.
Yeah.
Can we then say, right, that's done, we're going to look forwards, we're going to be positive, we're going to celebrate our achievements, learn from our failures, and we're done with apologising?
Absolutely. And so how are we going to learn from our failures if we do not understand what we did wrong?
You learn from your failures because that's what we're doing at the moment. The sort of report...
I can't believe you're saying this. I cannot believe you're saying this. How can we move forward? How can we know what we did wrong if we're unwilling to admit it? It's like, lady, are you serious? Again, they admitted slavery was wrong. That's why they ended it. That's why the Western world ended it before everyone else. They admitted it was wrong. Why can't you see that? Why can't you see it? Again, if they didn't admit it was wrong, it would still be going on now.
So some of us are simply a bit bored of hearing people ripping at closed wounds and then crying about their hurt or their presumed hurt, because everybody could do this. 1 million Europeans were stolen by North Africans over the course of decades of the North African Barbary pirate slave trade. Where would you end if you did that? The answer is you couldn't end, because nobody is alive who has actually suffered the hurt, and nobody is alive who did the wrong. And I'd make one other point, if I may. It's always the countries that people want to come to who are put through this struggle session. Britain, like America and France, are the most desired destinations for migrants worldwide, and have been for centuries. Why is that? It's not because we're racist, it's because we're better, it's because we're good, it's because when we see racism, we actually call it out and recognize it as a sin. Try finding that across Africa, try finding that across the Middle East or in China. Nobody would hear. So what we have is a situation where the more virtuous countries are presented as the worst countries. It's sick, and most of us are tired of it.
Thank you, Douglas.
I am so sorry that Douglas is bored by the pain that has come from
That's not what he said.
Through slavery.
He didn't say. But what you're doing there, yeah, but hang on, Paula. Paula, you're being very disingenuous. That's not what he said.
I am.
The viewers aren't stupid. They know exactly what he said. He's not saying he's bored by the pain. He's saying, and I think it's a perfectly valid point, the pain that people who are alive today are claiming they're suffering for what happened 200 or 300 years is not a real pain. They're not the ones who suffered what was going on 200 or 300 years ago.
So in terms of justice for all, I mean, I think we'd all agree that there should be justice.
Well, I'm not suffering from when the Normans invaded this country.
Agree.
I'm not suffering from what my ancestors went through.
I noticed that I'm not being allowed to respond.
Or from the Romans. In other words, where do you take this? I mean, should I now...
Guys, I'm going to go ahead and cut the video right here. But we have truly got to understand that the Western world, the US and the UK, they got to stop feeling bad for whatever. We got to stop feeling bad because, again, we have got to understand that our countries ended slavery before anyone else. We did. We ended slavery before everyone else. As a matter of fact, it's still going on now in parts of the world. And there were more white slaves in Northern Africa than there were black slaves here. And again, we have truly got to understand that kind of stuff. But also, man, again, I'm sorry that somebody's grandma was a slave. I get that. I'm sorry. But again, I feel bad that she was. But number one, she's dead. And number two, I wasn't alive during that time. And do I feel sorry for you? No. Again, there's nothing that I can do that you can't. We have full equality under the law. And guess what? You might be doing better than what I'm doing. So again, I don't feel sorry for you. And I'm not going to. And again, we have truly got to understand that reparations, that would bankrupt. It would break this country. Again, we would not be able to pay for that. We would have to print all kinds of money. And again, that would cause all kinds of inflation, much worse than we have right now. So again, we have to understand that people that are wanting this, they are wanting to destroy this country. And again, once it's destroyed, they'll be the first ones up the yelling and screaming about how unfair it is. So again, we have got to understand that we let people yell and scream about reparations. Again, white people and black people, whoever is yelling about reparations, let them. Ignore them. But again, we have got to understand that. So let them yell, let them scream, let them say whatever they want to say. But hey guys, if you would, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below.
You son of a